Good evening, guys. Apologies for the slight delay there. First of all, we were going out live and didn't realise we were. So if you heard anything, you didn't hear anything, right? And secondly, my internet just dropped, so I had nothing. Yes. So there you go. So we are indeed live. Let me just look in chat. Hello, chat. How are we doing? Got Pete in there. Cybernoid in there. Is Matt's in there. Rob, Neil, Bob, David. Cat's in as well. It'll take me all night just to get through. So, hello Kim. Hello Kim from Denmark. Good evening, Kim. I do have this man with me, Mr. Garry Dibley.
Yeah, well, to me, I didn't break it at all, I promise. It was nothing at all to do with me. Although I was supposed to be driving in the background, something else happened. I just lost everything. I don't know what happened. I'm blaming someone else.
Not good at all. Yes. So hopefully things will be okay for the rest of the show. Who knows?
Hopefully. We've got pros doing it now.
Just don't know. Savvy's giving us a help in our control room because Gary's machine locked up as well.
She's a blessing in disguise, Savvy's.
Anyway, let's kick off. Let's have some titles and then we'll start the show properly. Yes. Here we go.
VaperScene is proudly sponsored by Health E-Vape, UK purveyor of e-cigarettes and Pure Perfection e-liquids.
Yes, there you go. Let me just click that button and I won't hear myself, which you don't really want to do. No, because it confuses the heck out of you. There may be, so you never know, and I'm there till the weekend. So if I get snowed in, Gary's on his own next week.
I'll break it again.
What do you think, Garry?
I do apologise if you were waiting patiently for us to appear, and we did. Yes, we may have said a few things that we shouldn't have said, and no, I don't think we give too much away of certain things, but yes, snow is good. We need snow. It's going to be an interesting show this one.
Well, we might as well. I guess we might as well, since we were talking about it when we were live, but not live, but yes. We're live. We might as well just kick off with this bit, to be fair. The guys were talking last night on Drips and Tips about the various kind of big festivals, vape meets, expos that are happening this year. And there is this one, which is the 8th and 9th of May, which is Vape Jam down at Olympia in London. And these two fellas are going to be there. Yeah, Dimitris and Phil Posado. Busado. Yeah, they're going to be in attendance apparently. And I've spoken to both of them yesterday and today, actually. And on next week's show, I will have Dimitris. Yes, who's the fella on the left? Could be your right, but he's my left. He's going to be on next week's show. So if you have any questions for Dimitris you want me to put to him, you can tweet me at #VaperScene, and of course you can #VaperScene and tweet throughout the show. You can also send us an email to vaperscene@vaportrails.tv, and I will put as many questions as I can to Dimitris. And of course, if you're in chat, next week, then you can ask the questions live. After that one, there is this one, which is the Electronic Cigarette Exhibition 2015, and that is the back end of June at the weekend. And that one is a free event, and it's at the Harrogate Business Centre. Now, if you've ever been to the Yorkshire Show, which I go to quite often, that's where it is. And I'll be bringing you an interview with the guys from Vape Jam and from the other one in Harrogate, ECE, at the back end of February. Yeah, so I've got interviews with both of those guys coming up on the show at the end of next month. And then, of course, next month we are awaiting this VapeFest 2015 because they are due to be making some sort of announcement. So we'll bring you that one too. Yeah. So that's what we were kind of talking about before. Yeah. So don't forget, next week got Demetrius live on the show from the States. And if you've got any questions, you know what to do. So let us move swiftly on. And let me just show you a tweet if I can. Yes, now I tweeted this earlier. And I said, this guy has facts and knows what he's talking about. Great. To a piece of VT that I found from Breakfast Television Montreal. And they're very kindly allowed me to use it. So have a little look, because this guy talks a serious amount of sense.
Pleased to have with us on our BT Couch Dr. Gaston Ostigui. He is the director of the MUHC Smoking Cessation Clinic and pulmonology specialty. Thank you so much for joining us, Doctor.
My pleasure, Mr. Broadcast.
We're talking about something very specific this morning, something that we see, it's popping up all around this city, many other cities, these e-cigarettes, these vaping stores, these stores that sell these e-cigarettes. First of all, what is an e-cigarette?
An e-cigarette, I mean, first of all, there's no tobacco into it.
No tobacco.
There is nicotine. Okay. And nicotine has never created cancer, never created disease, never created chronic obstructive lung disease. Nicotine is addictive, but it's not harmful to your health. So it's a better option than the tobacco cigarette. I mean, tobacco cigarettes is 500 times, 1,000 times more toxic than the electronic cigarette.
Okay, so a lot of people are saying that, you know, this is just another way of getting harmful chemicals inside you, and they're not necessarily a great option. You're saying maybe the lesser of two evils in this?
Much less than two evils. I mean, when people are telling you these sort of things, ask them what kind of chemicals they're talking about.
Okay.
Because in the electronic cigarette you have nicotine to satisfy your nicotine receptors and to satisfy your addiction to nicotine and to relieve your withdrawal symptoms. Then you have propylene glycol and vegetal glycerol as fuels, and then you have some flavors to make it acceptable. Mm-hmm. And that's about it.
Okay. And in terms of, because we were talking about this during the commercial break, the e-cigarette is not something that you would ever suggest to someone who's never smoked. This is more like of a transitional tool away from the actual traditional cigarette.
And this is what happened. I mean, people have to realize that it's been available in Europe for about 10 years at the moment.
The e-cigarette?
Yes.
Okay.
It's been invented in 2003. So it's been going on for quite a long time. So people have lots of experience with it. So no, it's a good way to move from the tobacco cigarette. And as a matter of fact, I mean, we have some good figures coming from Europe, especially from Great Britain, and less than 1% of people who use the electronic cigarette never smoked before.
Okay.
99% are already smokers, tobacco smokers.
So it really is that. It's a transitional, a transition away from the traditional cigarette.
Exactly.
And in terms, if you compare that to a patch, for example, I'm very curious about that. Like people who get on the patch versus the e-cigarette. Is there one that's more effective than the other?
Yes, much more effective because...
Which one is more effective?
The electronic cigarette.
Really?
The electronics. But again, there are two basic principles when people want to stop smoking. You have to have the pharmacotherapy. You have to supply a medication that will relieve withdrawal symptoms and relieve your nicotine addiction. And then you have some counseling. So people don't know really, very often don't know exactly how to use the electronic cigarette. Mm-hmm. So they should see a health professional who is knowledgeable in this. And unfortunately, there are not too many in Montreal.
Not too many in Montreal. And quickly, a lot of people are saying they want to see these e-cigarettes off buses and in public places. They're comparing it to a regular cigarette. Should it be banned from public places here in Montreal?
This is not a scientific issue.
Okay. This is a social issue.
It's a social issue because of the flavors.
Okay.
If you go to an e-cigarette shop and you have 15 people trying the electronic cigarette, it's very unpleasant.
Right.
I mean, just like being in a room where you have 20 women with different perfumes.
I
So
see.
it's unpleasant. It might be irritating for asthmatic, for example. So it's a social issue,
Not a health
but
issue.
it's not a health issue.
All right, Dr. Gaston Estigui, thank you so much for clearing a lot of these questions up. I don't think a lot of people understood all of this. Thank you so much for joining us this
It's
morning.
been my pleasure, and we use it a lot in our clinic to help people stop smoking.
Okay, all right.
So there you go. Somebody, a doctor, a professional who has facts, number one, knows about what we're doing over in the UK, number two, great, and number three, uses them in his own smoking cessation clinic as well. Three excellent things that a lot more professionals, I say professionals, should be pushing on, really, instead of the other people like Mr. Glantz who put out those ridiculous things, which we are debunking, and as well as the curb it and stuff. What do you say, Gary?
Don't mention Glance in my shed, mate. Him in my lathe need an appointment very soon. But yes, it was amazing, wasn't it? It's still all about the quit, no trouble. But it is, isn't it? But I can see where he's coming from with that, because from a scientific point of view, and I think that's what we need to. If you're looking from a scientific point of view, we need the back end of the doctors to give it the edge over other products, if you would like. But from, I think, the vapors point of view, some would see that as, you don't want it to go down a certain route where it's only available on prescription, this, that, and the other. And that's the one thing that worries me with the scientific view. Even though they can prove that they're a lot less harmful, they're a lot more successful. We all know that, all the people that have been around for a long time. But for me, I'm not going to say I'm not a quitter. I didn't try to use one to quit. I wanted an alternative means of using a nicotine or tobacco, not tobacco, Jesus, a nicotine-based product, shall we say. And that's where I get a little bit confused, or not confused, but a little bit between the two. For me, it's all about a switch rather than a quit. And I think that also needs to be mentioned, that it's a safer alternative rather than a cessation device.
Yeah, totally agree with you there. Some people will use e-cigs to stop smoking, and that's fine.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine. Get my keyboard lined up. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But for those of us who want to continue using nicotine in a safer way, then that's what we need to have people understand as well, especially the likes of Mr. Glantz, who just doesn't seem to get it. And in here, I've got spearmint, which is very nice. In here, I've got caramel, which is very nice. And in the Evic Supreme, I have Earth Boy, which is more of a tobacco one. I don't generally use a lot of tobacco flavours because I prefer to use other flavours. And that's just me. And I know you like your strawberry custard, is it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Strawberry custard, peach custard, kiwi custard. Yes, all of those in vast quantities.
Indeed. I'll go back to me. Yes, so I was rather impressed. Let's have a little look in chat, and I've sent the link to Sav, and Sav's posted it into chat as well. So you can have a look and tweet that and get it around. I also tweeted Breakfast Television Montreal, the video from Andy that he did, which will be seen in the second half that you saw if you're watching on last night's show, and it's also on Andy's channel. And team Neil says, I'm a switcher, not a quitter. Yes, indeed. Whip it up. Don't quit, switch. Now, that actually kind of dovetails quite nicely into this tweet that I saw from Lorian. There we go. Oh my, is someone worried? At Nicorette. Don't start vaping, quit smoking for good is their advert. And the one underneath that, electronic cigarettes, what are they? Do they work? From ash. Yes. Now, this is what they say on the Nicorette website. Don't vape, quit for good. E-cigarettes explained. And if you want to go and have a look at that, have a look at that. But I'm not going to dignify it anymore. I'm not going to read it anymore. Go to the Nicorette website and you can have a look for yourself. But yes, they're really piling on the pressure now, aren't they? It seems they're starting now to attack vaping and say vaping's no good. You know, you need to use our products. You need to use NRT, which we know don't work 100% for everybody. In fact, they hardly work at all. And we also know that e-cigs have taken over NRT in people quitting. Isn't that right, Garry?
It is. I think I was talking to my wife the other night on the very same subject, and my wife went through a lot of long journeys with me trying to quit, and she summed it up in a very simple way. She went, you went from the strongest patch possible down, and you stayed on that as long as you possibly could. Then you went to the next one down. Then you went to the next one down. And by the time you got to the lowest one possible, you were back in the fags again. And then 6 months later, you said, let's try it again. And we tried to work out the amount of quit attempts that I had in terms of financially. Because financially, then, you know, what it cost me to go through. I went through patches, I went through gum, I went through all sorts of stuff. And we tried to work out financially where that cost us every time against the amount of time I've been vaping. We gave up after a while. But she's over the moon because it's the longest, you know, time. I haven't had a cigarette since 2009 now, which is a long old time.
Yeah.
And you know, for me, I was in terms of success rates, and they talk about quit smoking for good. Those products, they try to wean you off, but I think as somebody who's used to and who likes using nicotine, you get to a point where your body sort of goes, actually, no, I want some more. And I know they go, the thing is, you know, the people who say quit cold turkey, I think the thing for me is I never wanted to quit. And my journey started when the tampon inhaler thing came out, and I tried that, and for once it gave me that sensation of having driving, drawing on something. It tasted like absolute crap, to be honest with you, but that was what sent me in search of something that could replace the tampon holder, as I call it.
The plastic tampon.
That's the one.
Now, I never used the plastic thing. I did use patches once, but I gave up before for 6 years, and I did it cold turkey. I don't intend giving up vaping, and it's 3 years next month for me, and I enjoy it. I've lowered my nicotine a little bit because I've been sub-ohming, because I'm getting so much more flavour, and I'm obviously getting a lot more nicotine because I'm doing that. So I've gone down from kind of 24 to 12 when I'm on the old steam, which is just fantastic. But I've still got 18 in here, and I've still got 24 in here. So, you know, I'm using all three different strengths, and I think a lot of people are doing the same thing to get different flavour profiles and, you know, and different hits from what they're using. Just checking in chat there. It's scrolling quite a lot. The tampon thingy made my tongue sting, says Whip. Yes. I found I did have a try of one, and it made my throat very sore very quickly. Didn't like it much at all. But it's also, someone else mentioned about Champix, and I saw this story. It's another Canadian one actually. Quit smoking drugs suspected in 30 suicides in Canada. And we won't go through the entire thing. Sav has got the link to this story. which you'll put into chat for us. But then also, this other story has resurfaced on the social media this week. Boy 14 collapses after chewing nicotine gum equivalent to 180 cigarettes in 25 minutes. And it was this story in the Daily Mail. And this was the 21st of July 2000. He was 14 in 2000, so he's going to be 17 or 18 now. This is also going to go into chat for you so you can have a look rather than my story. But if the guy, he's called Aidan Williams, yes, so if Aidan Williams is watching, get in touch with the show and tell us, A, what happened afterwards, and B, if you smoke now, or C, if you're a vapor, or D, did anything else occur? Because that would be rather interesting to find out what happened so many years later. Don't you think, Mr. D?
Yeah, they do. And I won't mention, obviously, my incident with the patches and the frozen leg and all that sort of stuff again, because we all know where that went. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of things with, you know, I had problems, shall we say, putting patches in certain areas. I would never put them there again. I never had a stingy tongue with a tampon, to be honest with you. There was, you know.
Do you want to just...
Probably. With the what's it called? The Nicker inhalery thing. I've never tried the spray because that was long after I'd even got to that point. And for me, vaping was a default. I got it to try. I didn't even know what it was. I was quite happy with the little plastic tube thing for a while. But once I got that and started using it, I started using it by default, if you get me. And I think a lot of people, that's how they go down this route. They use it historically, I think, and probably now. If you interviewed people that are fresh to vaping, it'd be interesting to see if their stories are, you know, they tie up with the stories of people that we know from, you know, a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, to see whether that's still the same. You pick one of those up, you think, yeah, try it, you eventually, you know, get on with it. Some people stick on the cigar likes, this, that and the other. Some people progress. It's just a world out there that the authorities and government and even, you know, a lot of the I think the pros in the professional, you know, medicinal type people don't understand, I don't think, still what is out there and what has gone, you know, before this time, really.
Yeah. I mean, there are always going to be adverse side effects with any drug. I mean, you look back at the 60s, there was the thalidomide drug, which caused terrible, terrible things. But there's been other drugs that have caused heart attacks and mental instability. But to use something that could possibly do that just to quit smoking is a bit extreme. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I've got arthritis and I use quite cutting edge medication these days. It's an injection, which I have to do every 2 weeks, and it stops me from becoming an invalid, basically. Without that drug, I would not be able to function. Things would just start seizing up, and that would be no good for me. So I know that there are certain side effects that could happen with this particular drug, but I've been using it for 8 years. And I'm going to continue to use it, and that is my, you know, that's my decision to use that, which could have side effects, but it's, you know, it's a lot more important than giving up cigarettes. So if it was a choice of smoking or taking medication to give up smoking, I'd do vaping. But you know, every medication can have side effects, and we have to live with those. But I think it's just weighing up the risk factor of benefits against risk. That's the thing. And I've got no first-hand knowledge of anyone using Jampix that I know of. All I've seen is historical, anecdotal stuff from other people. But that's anecdotal. You know, it's not medical fact. So let's move on, and let's go to the first set of ads. because we are about time. Yes, otherwise we're going to run over. So let me find them. There we go. Here's the ads. We'll see you in 2.
VaperScene is proudly sponsored by Health E-Vape, UK purveyor of e-cigarettes and Pure Perfection e-liquids.
Often imitated, never duplicated. Award-winning service and products from cloud9vaping.co.uk.
And now it's back to VaperScene on Vapor Trails TV. VaperScene is sponsored by Health E-Vape, UK purveyor of e-cigarettes and Pure Perfection e-liquids.
And welcome back. Yes, it's us. It's me and him. Yes.
Not guilty.
Now then, Garry has been playing on the lathe this week, and we've got 2 installments of MFT coming up. The first one in just a second or two. Garry, would you like to tell us what you were doing this week?
I would, yes. I've revisited Bob's hairy box, and it's long overdue. So I decided to get down and dirty with the hairy thing that was Bob's box. And we are back on the bench for another week. This week, lots going on. Look, I've been hurting myself lots. There's cuts and stuff everywhere. Excuse this, but I've just taken off a Barbie plaster because that's all I've got. It's blood and guts everywhere in my hands this week. Mainly because I've been doing lots of different things around the house, and I seem to cut myself with everything I pick up. That one was again, apologise for that. But that one was on I've just put some new radiators up, and they were sharp as buggery. They got cut to shreds trying to get down the back of it. This week, I aim to try and nail something, and it is for a very nice gentleman, Bob. And I've been trying to nail this for a long time. Now, there's been a couple of things that have sort of aided me in terms of how I can do this. I tried lots and failed lots, and that's one of the things when it comes to modding. You got to fail to try and work out what you need to do right, if you get me. This was called, and we're going back a long time now, and I do apologise, Bob, for the time this has taken, but in recording this, it's kicked me up the arse to get it done. Lots of things, you know. I'll give you an idea roughly how long I've had Bob's box, and it was just before Mark passed away, and it's been one of those mods that has been sat there, and you know, for reasons, it's taken a while to get around to it. One of the reasons was failing in what I was trying to do, losing my words a little bit, but effectively this is a squonker, and you can probably remember when we had this. It's one of those jobbies, it's a wooden job, you little thing on there, you do squonky thing in there, and juice comes out the top, as it probably would if you shake it and squeeze it and manipulate it in the right way. Juice will spurt out the end, and will go in your atomizer. Now, the problem that Bob had was he didn't like, well, not that he didn't like, but he had this little knobby thing in the top of it, and he wanted to get and Bob, this has not been out of the packet since I got it, and it's I apologise, it's taken a long time, but I've finally got the I think the way to do this, and he's going to film it, which is all going to be wrong. Now, he wanted to use one of these. Now, this is a little these are great, I don't know what it's cool, but it's one of these things, and if you know what it is, it's you know, it's not a clone or all that sort of stuff. This is this out of focus. It's one of them. It's a I think it's vicious. It is vicious ant little thing. Now, this is a 16mm vicious ant with a squonky hole through the middle. Now, my vicious ant Atty, I've got exactly the same. I've got a little 16mm one with this, but I've also got the big one, which has the air feed control on it, and it's annoying the bugger off me because I was going to recoil this with some cotton, and I've lost the sodding Allen key that I need to do the screws with. So I'm going to have to try and hunt one of those down, and it'll probably swear a lot. What were we doing? Well, because he wants this 16mm Atty in the top, we were looking at making a new top cap. Now, we were looking at making that out of acrylic and this and the other, and I failed miserably. Now, current developments in terms of some of the, I've been making some of the wide bore tips, and where I was failing, I learned a lot of lessons trying to get those things right. Also, with making the pens. Now, I made the biggest tarts pen possible over Christmas, which was, it's massive. Just to give you an idea, this pen here is, I could get an Ego battery inside there, and we made this on the lathe. So you can get an idea. The problem I had with this was a lot of shattering acrylic, trying to make a 16mm insert for it, and we're trying to get it black to match the top. Now, this is called Bob's Hairy Box, and it's called Bob's Hairy Box for a very good reason. We found hair in it, and you know, Bob's a beardy man, and I'm his beard. If it didn't, then we have problems because I've been handling it for a long time. I've now cast another lot of a resin, and I've got my resin which is set in here, which is a black resin. I've got to get this out of the tube. A lot of the problems I had was getting this stuff out of the tube once it's cast. I think we've nailed that now, so I'm going to get this blank out, and you can sort of see the size that blank is. I've got to drill a 16mm hole through the middle of it. I've got to round it off, and I've got to get it so it will sit flush on the top of this box. That is what we are going to be doing. Now, once I've got that all done and sorted, I've got to get it mounted on here. I've got to get it glued in. I've got to get a atomizer. Now I'm going to zoom down ever so slightly. I apologise if we're going over old ground, but it's been a while. Now this ATI connector has got a little rod that's been soldered to the middle pin. I've got a neg wire coming off here that I need to get all back in, and this is what we're going to be working on. Getting all of this back so we can squonk with a 16mm ATI, which still has the same coil you built, Bob, in there. He did say I could try it, but don't even know what the resistance is on that. In working on the wide bores and the other bits and pieces, the biggest problem I had, unfortunately, with being a little bit of a perfectionist, I will call myself that, I wasn't happy with the internal finish, and making things like the big ass pen and the wide bore tips has given me a much better idea how to finish this. And sometimes when you're doing stuff and it all comes together, you think, Jesus Christ, I could have done that a long time ago. I'm going to crack on. What I'm going to do is get this, I'll tell you what, I'll start. Basically, there's lots of ways. This has been cast in a, I don't know what size this is, but a big plumber's pipe, basically. I've mixed the resin with a little hardener. I've added some colour in to get it black, and what I need to do now is get this out. Now, as you can imagine, none of the ends are going to be finished. Nothing's going to be, you know, flush and all that sort of stuff. So I've got to get it clamped in the jaws. I've got to get the lathe spinning, and I've got to take an end off, get a starting point. I may come back in 10 minutes and go, I've taken this out and it cracked, which I've had. I've tried this lots and lots of times, and the amount I've cracked, because I'm trying to ram a 16mm drill in there, it weakens the walls. When you work with acrylic, it gets warm. I've warped it, I've cracked it, I've smashed it. I've got to the point of fitting it to the box and cracked it, trying to get the ATI connector in. But once it's in, it will be solid. It's just a case of getting it to a point by hand, which is a big thing, by hand, that it's actually going to be workable. I'll pop back in two when I've got that out, strapped in the lathe, and we're going to try and start this again. Back in two. Right, I've been working this away, and I tried a few techniques and it was solid. I've given it a little tap with a hammer, ever so slight, just literally around the outside, just to free that up. And now, oh, see, look, for all those that wanted to see blood, I've opened my cut again. So I'm just going to ram a finger up the hole, and I'm just going to really grip it tight while I'm ramming that in, and let it come out. And this is my blank I'm going to be working on. A nice big black one. It's got some good girth to it, and I'm just going to head now and strap that into the lathe and take an end off, and we'll start again. Lots of calipers, this, that and the other to try and work out what I need to do, but effectively, looking at my ATI, I've just got to create a drip well, which sounds easy, but it's been doing me head in. I might have to go and get a Barbie plaster on this. Pop back in two. Okay, before he says, he will get on the lathe in a minute, trust me. Before I head over there, I'm gonna change my tips, and I'll show you a little bit about that when we're back on the lathe. But I've got totally out of shot ends. Now this one here is a tungsten carbide, and this one here, this is on the tool, the hand tool that I will be feeding into the blank. Now this one here is, as I say, tungsten carbide. It's an incredibly hard wearing. It keeps a sharp edge for a long time. This one has been going for 6 months and pretty much used every single day. This one here is a very sharp blank and very sharp bit, and it's going to be perfect for taking this down, because this stuff here shatters for fun, and if I try and ram that into that, it's just going to break. So I need to take away very little bits with a very sharp one. Now on a price comparison, these two are around about the same. This is a TI bit, as they call it, and they don't last that long if you overdo them, but great for getting a good finish on wood and all that sort of stuff. I'm just gonna quickly change that over. I use the old cordless bit, cordless drill. I've got the right bit in it, and literally it is a case of ramming it in and getting that out, slapping it in, swapping it over. Oh, that cut's killing me on the end of my finger. It went quite deep. Don't manhandle aluminium. And you'll hear at the end, get your chucky, torquey settings right on your bit for what you're drilling. I know that's now in, it's not going to go too far, and this and the other. I'll see you with that over to lathe in a minute.
And that was part one, and it's him. There he is. Yeah, show us your fingers.
Yeah, lots of them. They're all still there. All still there.
He's still got his fingers. However, there was some blood loss. But you guys in chat, you're baying for blood all the time, baying for blood.
Terrible.
You will see the next instalment of that very shortly, because we're going to go into the next set of ads, and when we come back, you can see what Garry did next. See you in 2.
VaperScene is proudly sponsored by Health E-Vape, UK purveyor of e-cigarettes and Pure Perfection e-liquids.
Vapers, do you love discovering new e-liquids? Tell Dripper the types of flavours you like, and they'll send you 5 gourmet juices each month. Experience new and exclusive flavours, all with a money-back guarantee and free delivery anywhere in Europe. Dripper.co.uk.
RY4 Radio. What's in this e-cig cloud? Harmless water vapour, right? Pretty much, yes. Compared to a lit cigarette, it's much safer than smoke. But it contains nicotine, and nicotine on its own isn't toxic and doesn't cause cancer. If you're worried about switching to vapour, here are some facts. No tar, no smoke, no burnt tobacco. Cooking your evening meal produces more toxins than are found in exhaled vapour. Tobacco smoke contains toxins at very high levels, and vapour does not. And that vapour contains 6,000 times less carcinogens than cigarette smoke. Electronic cigarette vapour. There's nothing to be frightened of. The only dangerous electronic cigarette is a banned one.
And now it's back to VaperScene on Vapor Trails TV. VaperScene is sponsored by Healthy Vape, UK purveyor of e-cigarettes and Pure Perfection e-liquids.
And we are back to part 3. Hello. Yes, that last little bit of VT that was on there and that was on last night. You need to tweet that, and then retweet it again. Get it out there. Get the thing more viral than viral can be, to debunk certain people sending other things all over North America. Yes, and you know who you are. I hope you're watching. But you're probably not, because you've banned us all. We can't tweet you or anything else. But there you go. So yeah, get it tweeted. Let's just look at... Yes, I am Siegfried. I like that common sense ad for e-cigs. It's kind of an ad, but it's not kind of an ad. It's public information film, I think, is the best way of putting that. Yeah, public information film, filmed by Common Sense. Yes, and full of common sense. Talking about common sense and talking about cut fingers, DTR says it's Garry, 'tis but a flesh wound Dibley. And he's coming up right now in part 2 of this week's MFT. Enjoy.
So I'm over the lathe, and because my lathe has been in a certain mode for making certain things, I've taken the jaws off. Now what I need to do, and I may need to cut away and do this again, is try and get the jaws back on, which are these little things here. And I've got 3 different sets of these, and they all work in different ways to grip things. Now I've just been offering them up, which you can't see because I have to work this on my shoulder. But basically all of these have got to attach to the face, and I'm just going to get me little foldy Stanley Allen key type set and just pop those in and try and I'll work on like that to start with, to get them to a point where they're going to tighten, and when they're to the point of tightening, give it a little grip and a little and hopefully they will. I've just opened my cut again. Squeezing's not good. So once I've got, if I get 2 in opposite sort of areas, excuse me, it will give me an idea whether that blank is actually going to grip. It's going to be tight. That is going to be so tight, but it will grip. Let me put the other jaws on. Fingers bleeding again. If you wanted blood, it's here. It's all here today. Pop away. I'll come back to. Right, so I've got that in now. That is incredibly tight. What I'm going to do is just offer up my tailstock, and I'm going to try and centre and secure that up. Now what I'm doing with this back end, there's a little lever here which solidifies the back end. I want to take a little bit off there before I do that actually, because I want to put a bit of pressure on it. So just get that up, get that pressured in. Now while that's pressured in and centred, I'm just going to tighten up, chuck, that's well and truly in there, and it's gone off. Already I can see it's gone off centre. And if I spin that and just put some power on, you can probably see that when it was starting. Let me just show you. Try and get a little bit further in, if you watch, you can see how off-centre that has become. So what I've got to try and do is try and get that spinning true, which is difficult. Now, every time I put pressure on, I can feel the blood coming out. It's because this was so, when you cast something like this, they are well and truly off centre, but I've got to try and get it. There's still a wobble on that. I dropped my thing. I've got to kick the camera as well. I've got to try and get that as true as I can before I start, because I've not got much. Yeah, where are you going? That's tight. Not got much room once I ram. I think that's as close as I'm going to get it, to be honest with you. That's almost centre. If you watch a wobble on this now compared to a little while ago, it's quite minimal. And excuse all this stuff in the background, that's shavings, and I let them build for a little while. Right, so we're on, and we've got a sort of a centre. Now the first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to run a little drill bit in the end first, a 5mm through, just so I've got a little bit more depth for this to go on. Come back in 2. Okay, so I've decided to go with an 8mm drill bit. That's in, I've got a certain of the way through. I'm probably going to go to the extent of the drill bit. Now, the way a lathe works, this end here is the rotating bit, and you need to be very careful of your hands from this bit. I've been bitten quite a few times. You can see when the jaws are at full extent, there are sharp and raised edges everywhere. You put your hand in there, that will absolutely take a chunk, which is where that come from. Working on small things, this, that and the other, you get bitten every now and again, even though you try and be safe. So I'm running 8mm through here. Reason for that, when I get to the atty end, which is where the atomizer has to break through and meet the mod, I need 9mm approximately for that to go through this acrylic. So 8 gives me room to play, and when I put the 16mm through here, it gives a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and get this probably to the extent of the drill bit. You've got to be a little bit careful for heat and this, that and the other when you're drilling acrylic, especially this stuff, which is a poly mix. Put your fingers in your ears. I'm going to power this up. Right, I've gone to the extent of that already in the first bit, so I've just backed it off. I'm releasing the tailstock now. I'm going to move that in until I feel it starting to bite. I'm then going to lock that off. It's a sort of a friction fit, so once that's banged in, it locks it down tight to the bed. And just start feeding that drill bit in. Back it out, and you can see the stuff coming out. Would you like to see stuff coming out the end of my thing? There it is. Take that back out, kill that. Now, the reason for doing that, let me just release my drill bit. Now what I'm going to do is stick in one of these, which is a live revolving centre. It's called a live revolving centre because it goes in the tailstock, and this end here, you probably can't see that, but it spins basically. And it keeps everything all nice and centered. So I'm going to put that in the middle, and all of these are pressure fitted. I've just literally thrown it in, and that is as solid as buggery. So I'm just going to stick that in, lock it off, put a ever so tiny little bit of tension on it. If you put too much tension on the back end, it can throw this out, so you've just got to nip it up ever so tightly. I'm going to lock off the back ring. Now what that does is that stops this moving, because sometimes there is a revolving handle on the back, and when you're working on something, the vibration causes the back handle to unroll. By locking this off, it won't. It'll be there. The other thing I've got to look at is putting my tool rest in. Now I've got to get that as close as I can and lock that off. Now the reason you work close is when you're working with something this sort of big, you don't want to have such a gap that you jam that in, it jams and that flies up and takes your teeth out. So very good reason for that. What I'm going to do before I start is try and find my paring tool, and what I'm going to do is just take an end off this, so I've got a square end to work with. Now working by hand, you're never ever going to get a square end, fully a square end, but we'll do our best. Bear with me for 2 and see how this goes. And it's quite a big blank, this one, so this might take a while. And I can nudge that out of the way and tip that off, but there it is. So I've got my end gone, and that little disc, just to show you, there's a little disc that's come off the end, and it was very uneven. There's, you can see the lips and all that are on it, so that wouldn't have made a good finish on the other end. But we've taken it down now, and it is flush. The next stage is to just clamp this in, and what I'm going to do is try and take this down to a round, because I need me goggles for that. Let me grab me goggles back into. So I've got my goggles, going to slap them on. In between filming the last bit and this bit, I've had dinner, God knows what, and probably 4 hours have gone past. So I've just had to watch back where I was to try and catch up a bit. But my next stage in this process is going to be to, when you cast these blanks in the tubes, they're not 100% true. Again, I've walked away from the lathe, I've been away from it for a long time. I'm just going to check, and I know it was, but I'm just going to check that everything is tight and where it should be. I'm going to free roll back end to make sure that's there. Next stage on this is just to try and get it round, and then I'll start focusing on where I need this to be. I need it to be to a certain exterior diameter, and then I've got to drill 16mm through the middle. Let me crack on and do a little bit of that. It's probably going to be a 2-week job, and we are going to nail this. Sorry, Bob, for the time. It's taken. Let me just, until I started making the pens and the wide bore tips recently, working on big stuff, it dawned on me what I need to do to get this right. And it's taken that long to sort of work it out, as well as other things. Let me turn this on. I'm going to crack this baby in it and take this down to a reasonable round. And all I'm doing to start with is just easing that ever so slightly in. You don't want to ram it in to start with. There are uneven edges that you've got to take out. If you ram it in really hard, you know, as well as potentially getting one in the face from this jamming and going up, it will just shatter. And this is where that really sharp bit comes in. And I know it looks like my knuckles are running incredibly close to this, but I'm watching them all the time, trust me. This stuff is different to the other stuff. This stuff goes like snow, whereas the acrylic is quite coarse. This will wrap around it like a bird's nest, whereas this stuff here won't. And you can see on there the bits that we've got to take out, the chunks and you know, this bit here. So hopefully, I mean, it may be that if I can't get this to the level I need with getting this smooth, these imperfections, I'm going to have to probably cut back to here and start again, which is where a lot of the problems have been. I'm going to crack on with this next week. We'll be back here on this. It will be nailed, Bob, I promise you, dear boy. Back to Marco in the studio. We'll be back down here next week. Catch you later.
Yes, that was the second and final part of this evening's MFT with Mr. Dibley. So what's on for next week, GD?
Well, I've got Bob's Hairy Box back in the lathe again, and next week we aim to try and get it finished. He hopes.
Finally.
Finally, yes. Apologies, Bob. Sorry.
We've got a couple of minutes left because we started late. We started about 10 past, so we've got a couple of minutes. Now, on Dave's show last Sunday, he showed the bits of VT that he was going to show at Christmas, but the show was cancelled because of work-related issues. And some of the guys were saying what their favourite mod was of last year. You've got about 30 seconds to tell me what your favourite mod was of last year, or your favourite three.
Favourite three, very quickly, is quite easy. I've got the iStick with the Aspire big bugger with the BVCs. I've got the E-grip, which I've just got the rebuildable bottom for, which is now absolutely kicking butt. And I've got the the DNA 30, and I've got the big bugger thing on the top, the sub tanky thing. Done.
There you go. Well, for me, it was quite hard actually, but the EVIC Supreme with the Delta triple coil tank on, for me was a great mod. And then, like everybody else, I love the iStick, iLeaf, Curve, whichever branded one you got. And I've got the iClear XL on this, and I love it. It's really, really good. And then finally, it has to be, for me, the DNA 40, VaperShark DNA 40, that I got just before Christmas with the sub-tank in RDA mode, or RBA mode. For me, those three, they're the thing. And the kicker is really the DNA 40 with the temperature control, because that just kicks it. It really does. Love it to pieces. Right, so that was that. Yeah. Don't forget, next week's show, I've got Demetrius coming on. So if you've got any questions, you know what to do. Hashtag VaperScene, or you can send us an email to VaperScene@vaportrails.tv. Got any questions? And of course, if you're in chat on the night, you can ask questions, and I'll do my best to get them across to Demetrius. So tomorrow night it is Wednesday, and Wednesday is the Cave with Mr. Matt Gerrish. Thursday it's the Haze Hour with Dave and Keith. Sunday, Dave's Tackle Box with Mr. Dave Kitson, and then Monday it's Drips and Tips with Andy and Davey. Yeah, and then we're back around to next week's show. So say goodnight, Mr. Dibley.
I will do. 2 seconds though.
Okay, go ahead.
2 seconds quickly. I'm not going to invest in a cross slide for the manual lathe because it's a manual lathe, and that totally defeats the object. I like risking my knuckles. I work very safely and although it looks like sometimes I put my hand in the lathe, I know it, I understand it, I work with it every single day for a blooming long time, and I know what I'm doing with it. So cross lathe, yeah, I'm not going to get a thing that does it for me. Defeats the object. Thanks, good night.
Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Dibley. We will see you next week. Take it easy. Ta-ta. Thanks for watching.
VaperScene is proudly sponsored by Health E-Vape, UK purveyor of e-cigarettes and Pure Perfection e-liquids.